Good morning, sir. How you doing today?
Great, Kevin. How are you today?
Doing fantastic. Appreciate you being on. You put a statement out about the Environmental Protection Agency's Waters of the United States rule. Kind of explain what your feeling is and what the EPA is doing here.
Well, I think the EPA is doing what a lot of the federal agencies are doing, and they're exercising a lot of overreach and getting into areas where they shouldn't be. And Waters of the U.S. is one of those rules that, this is an agency rule. It wasn't anything passed by Congress, and we actually passed a bill in the House to negate this rule by the EPA. But even if it were to get through the Senate, the president said he will veto the rule. But it gives the EPA and the Corps of Engineers, the Waters of the U.S. rule does, expanded jurisdiction in an area where I don't think the Clean Water Act ever intended for them to have jurisdiction. The Clean Water Act said navigable waterways, and now they're trying to make irrigation ditches or any place where water runs off under control of EPA and Corps of Engineer jurisdiction. So,
what are the negatives to this, Congressman?
Well, it affects a lot of business here in Arkansas, but when we look at farming and we look at forestry, two things that are very important in my district, it could give the EPA jurisdiction over how that land is managed. So it's a violation of private property rights. It's the government reaching into an area where they don't need to be reaching in, and it's not doing anything to help the environment. The EPA has got to the point where they're getting diminishing returns for the rules that they're putting out, and this is just another example of it. We've seen the Hayes rule that they put out, which is really based on bogus science, where they're trying to get the ozone in the atmosphere lower than what occurs naturally. That's going to have devastating effects to citizens in Arkansas as their electric bills go up, and as it makes it more costly for businesses to come here. So I'm glad to see the judge in North Dakota put a stay on this rule, and I was glad to see Attorney General Rutledge join in the lawsuit to stop this rule. So there are 13 states now that, at least with this judge's ruling in North Dakota, it's put a stay on the ruling.
A lot of kickback on this. Congressman Bruce Westerman on with me this morning. FAA grants that will help airports around the state improve, at least some of them. Tell me about this.
Yeah, this was a $8.5 million grant that went to multiple airports across the state to help with runways. We've still got some other issues with airports. I was down at the Texarkana Airport in my district last week, and they need funding to help with the control tower. That's a unique situation. There's a crest in the runway, and you can't see from one end of the runway to the other. So I think that's an area where it's critical to have
that's an issue.
In a control tower. Yeah. If I'm taking off or landing there, I want somebody that can see the other end of the runway. And Kevin, this is just something we're seeing with the increase in spending and mandatory programs, which make up over 2/3 of all the spending in the federal government. It's putting the squeeze in discretionary spending for areas like transportation, with airports, and our military. All of these are getting squeezed while our mandatory spending programs continue to increase.
Congressman Bruce Westerman on with me this morning. Appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much for being on.
Thank you, Kevin.